of you to my YouTube channel, Animals and Pets with Partha. Today we're watching the Brisbane Royal 2000. Well, I must say a few words about this show. It's one of the greatest shows in Australia, and Australia is one of the biggest dog game countries in the world. Well, if you consider the dog world, after the British, I think the same legacy, the same thing you see in Australia and in New Zealand, because they also follow the British system. They've always followed it, and these are kennel clubs that were started by the Britishers. And means I've judged in Australia and New Zealand numerous times. I think about 10 or 11 times in Australia, about 5 times in New Zealand, and I think and I of course started also judged in UK once only, though a small show. But I am very aware because my entire dog career was built on British system, and we actually inherited this legacy from the Britishers, who actually left this after the independence of India, because this kennel club was started long before India got independent, and it was run by the Britishers, and the Britishers run this elite club. They run all the elite clubs in India, social clubs, all the sporting clubs, the golf club and the polo club and whatever. They were all run by Britishers, and the Britishers had restricted entry for Indians, and only the rich Indians, the business people, the community, and maybe the high up officials, Rajas, Maharajas, the Nawabs, all the rulers of the small states of India were part of all these organizations. So this Indian dog game was built on those lines, and it was very restricted, like most other social clubs. Only members who were chosen or actually were eligible for members were really. But then after independence, of course, that slowly India opened up, and as in people started getting enlightened. In earlier days, it was never thought that the Indian dog game would be, commercial people who would breed and sell dogs for money or profit would be part of the dog game. But then this vast population and this teeming population, that means people are looking for opportunities to earn living, and so all the avenues of business and everything, opportunity, even livestock, dogs, whatever, has been opened up over the years. So the entire demography, entire thing has changed. So when I started the game in the early 70s, it was still more or less a very closed affair in the dog world. But then later on, of course, it all opened out, and I was, when I was there as organizers, as a young man, and I organized many shows, and I realized that slowly and certainly I would have to allow people, we would all have to allow people who were getting up on the ladder of the society, and they would, maybe they were people who are, selling fish in the market, or maybe they are doing, they're business people of any sort. But as long as they can afford the fees and other things, you would have to allow them, because India was opening up their society to the entire country. And then, what happened was, I can tell you that, of course, now it's completely different. We are very people in India, a lot of people in India, of course, are pursuing their dog career in a commercial, as a commercial enterprise, and they're breeding dogs for profit. And there are, it's very unfortunate that we have not been able to guide them properly, because there are a lot of people who are doing dog farming, and not only that, there's been a lot of very disturbing news that many of the breeds have been banned in some states of this country, because India is a vast country with 28 states and 8 Indian territories, which makes it 36 states in all. So that, this vast country is like conglomerate of many countries in Europe. So, there are many places where there are incidents where dogs have bitten people, and they are vicious dogs, and they have to put them down and all that. It all resulted in the wrong. We have not been able to educate the people in the dog world, and so the indiscriminate breeding, and there are numerous thousands of pet shops that have cropped up across this country who are selling any small puppies. And you see, when one looks at puppies, with the liquid brown eyes that begs to be yours and yours forever, you feel like taking that puppy home and loving it and taking care of it. But you don't realize that you are actually taken back a monster. It's not the dog of the puppy. It's not the fault of the puppy. Of course, people will suggest that, there are many corrective methods and this and that and all that. But the person who's just wanting a puppy to, love and keep as a pet and to cuddle and to, keep at home, suddenly realize that this dog starts biting. And not only bites, doesn't listen, doesn't understand, and finally bites, people who come to the house, the guests, servants, and things like that. And then, of course, when such things happen, they separate the dog, they keep it locked up, and then suddenly one day it gets released, it's become more wild, and it goes after whoever comes its way. So, so there's been a lot of incidences of vicious dogs across this country, and then there are rulings against certain breeds that you can't keep them anymore and things like that. So if you see Rottweiler, I have had this Rottweiler before, and it's such a loving breed, such a beautiful breed. It's so gentle and so of course it's a big dog, it's a lot powerful dog and all that. That doesn't matter as long as the dog is gentle, and then because they are supposed to be man's best friend. But anyway, all these things happened, and India, of course, has changed. And I am extremely fortunate that I made it as a dog judge and an always dog judge in the mid-80s. And then, of course, in 1987, I was invited, say in 1985, I think, Jim Mitchell had come to judge my dog show in Calcutta. And 1 year before that was W.G. Spilstead, who's popularly known as Bill Spilstead, and late Bill Spilstead, who's I've been to his house in Narrabeen in Australia. What a beautiful house he had. Anyway, Bill Spilstead, of course, he had that Dalwood, used to run the Dalwood show, and Jim Mitchell's wife, Colin Mitchell, was the secretary of the Dalwood Children's Home Charity Dog Show. Anyway, I was asked in 1987 to do about 13 shows that lined up for me. But there is sort of a lot of jealousy and competition in dog shows also, where people don't like that, suddenly somebody becomes popular or something. So anyway, I was given the appointments were waiting for me, but then I got very bad news that there were people from India who were close to the syndicate, They made frantic calls across Australia that how come you are inviting such a new judge, he's very new, he's not experienced, and then he might make mistakes and this and that. So, they wanted me desperately to and they managed to cancel out of the 13 shows, quite a few shows. Then then of course, Jim Mitchell, late Jim Mitchell, who organized all this, wrote to me, this is the situation, Partha, they have cancelled. I had 13 appointments for you, but they've cancelled quite a few, so we might still have 6 or 7, but then what do we do? Then I said, listen, Jim, this is not the right time, because I'm, of course, new. Maybe I would have done a good job. I would try to do a good job, but all that doesn't matter. But then when there's so much of anti-propaganda against me, I will wait and I will go a couple of years later when I'll of course, become more seasoned and things like that. So what I did was, my father was scheduled to have an eye operation, and it was truth that my father would be having an eye operation, and I wrote back to the club, which is, of course, I planned it before, that I would take an excuse that I cannot come because my father is undergoing an eye operation and I need to be with him. So 87, I stopped my visit, and in 1989, of course, I went there I had 6-7 beautiful appointments, and I sort of stretched my time for 1.5 months, and in that time, of course, I judged the Melbourne Royal show, and I was so fortunate to meet two wonderful people, late Graham Head and late Bill Crowley, both legends of the Australian dog world. They're such towering personalities. They were so respected worldwide that, so these are the people who spotted me, and I was, and then they allowed me, they made me an official judge of the Melbourne Royal, and they handed me the official badge, and they handed me the official tie of the Melbourne Royal, and said, Partha, you young man, remember that this will carry you throughout your dog career, and you will never stop judging anywhere, internationally or whatever. You will be valued as a dog judge. So this is what and then you see my picture in the Melbourne Royal Judges picture. I'm in the middle. Of course, I was the youngest among them, and they had such a great honor, and I was humbled that they allowed me to get such a focus. And then, of course, there was no stopping. I got appointments after appointments, and great appointments in Australia and, of course, New Zealand. And in both places, I really loved their dog shows. The exhibitors are so passionate, so involved with the dogs that you have to be there to see it. Anyway, so how did I get the Brisbane Royal that you've been watching for so long? Brisbane Royal, the biggest dog shows in Australia. I did 3 Royals, and this was my second Royal. After Melbourne Royal, this was Brisbane Royal, and later on, of course, I got the Hobart Royal also, which I did in 2004. What transpired was in 1997, I got a big appointment in Australia, 3 weekends of judging in Queensland. 3 weekends means 6 days of judging, and I had to judge there. They have 7 groups, just like the British. So I judged the 7 groups, and I did a besting show. So it was practically all breeds. The Australian exhibitors in Queensland, they got to see me judge all the 7 groups and also a besting show. Well, after that, I got the Brisbane Royal, which is again 10 days of judging dogs and dogs and dogs and dogs. So they had actually known the villain, me, what I was capable of, little or more or medium. Well, it's up to them, and I'm so much, I'm grateful to the fraternity, Australian dog fraternity, especially Queensland, that they had me back. From 1997, I got my next appointment was 2000 Royal Show. And so this is the Royal Show that you see that I'm judging, and not only did I judge for 10 days, and let me tell you, I met one of the most fantastic personalities. He's one of the people whom I revere, and he has given me one of the greatest certificates that I have put it on my Facebook chat and all the social media, that how much he was like a doting father to me, and he all the 3 weekends, he was a man past 80s. He has fond memories of India when he was in the Australian army, and he served, and he was posted in India, and how talked about barbers coming and shaving, getting a good shave and a haircut and this and that and whatnot. Then he met one Mr. Cyril Pierce, who was also one of my mentors, and he was from Bombay. So Cyril, of course, was dead by the time, and I told him I knew him so well, and I was a welcome guest at his house in Bandra in Linking Road, and I used to often just buy a train ticket and just hop in, and then he had an apartment just next to his, which was empty, and he was he was in charge of it, and The people who owned it gave him the keys and said, you can have your guests staying there. So I would enjoy that facility, and I would be in Linking Road. It was, where it's one of the most prized locality of Bombay. And we talked at length over these weekends whenever we got opportunity about Cyril Pierce and about hockey and things like that. So anyway, that was Brisbane Royal appointment that I bagged after that. And then not only did I do the Brisbane Royal, which you're seeing, you will see the depth of quality, the dog people, so passionate. The people who are showing under you are been showing dogs for, maybe generations they're in the same breed. And then you must do a reasonable job, you must do a good job. Of course, all breed judges like me, we have not kept all the breeds. There are a lot of breeds we've never kept. But then if I am able to find out the right dog, and supposing I have to place 8 dogs, or in the show, and class after class, if I do my right thing, and if I put the right, they all know that I have done the right thing. If I do the wrong thing, they will, they will not abuse you or do anything like that, or they will not complain openly, but then you will not be recalled. So that's important. So anyway, that was 2000. I was recalled after they saw whatever I was, what I could deliver. And then 2000 I did the Royal again, and of course after that I still got appointments back there, and many parts of Australia like Melbourne, Sydney and other places. I'm really humbled. And then I've been to UK also. It's because their dog game is built on the British system. And let me make a mention that Lieutenant Colonel Ray Underwood, later on, of course, whenever I went to Australia, I would always call him up and I always like to meet him. And the last time that I talked to him, he was in an old age home because his wife had died a long time back, and then he was past his 90s. And of course, it was not possible for him to take care of himself and live all by himself. So anyway, that was Lieutenant Colonel Ray Underwood. He spoke to me. He was so happy that I called him and at the old age home, and I talked to him for a long time. And it was a memory that I will treasure all my life, because these are the people who are so important in my life. Let me just run down the list again. W.G. Spilstead, for whom I did the Tallywood show. I was very honored to be invited personally to his house, who actually had me for lunch, and the whole day I spent with him discussing, a lot of things. He told me all old stories. And then, of course, let me tell you, it's Bill Spilstead, then it's Graham Head, W.D. Crowley from Melbourne, and then we have Arthur Lane and Laurie Grant and others, and then we have Dr. Spira from Sydney, and then we have Lieutenant Colonel Ray Underwood from Brisbane, from Queensland. So, well, the list is very long. Of course, then I'll miss out a lot of important people, but I'll just remember Gordon and Archer, Archer and Maria Archer, because they are the Von Dope kennel owners, the Doberman kennel in Australia. And so, how did I get to know them? That was even very funny. Because when I was judging in Sydney, suddenly got an invitation for a dinner invitation by Gordon and Maria Archer. And then I said, how come I'm invited? I don't even know these people. So my host said, they're very important people and you must go. And I said, well, I look forward to it because I read up so much about Von Dobermans. I've seen the pictures of the Dobermans because I was a Doberman breeder myself. So I did go and I asked him, why did you invite me? He says, listen, Partha, the reason for inviting you to come here is another Indian person had come before you and judged in Australia. And I know the name. I can tell you the people. But I will not go into that and go into controversy. And said, one other person who might come to Australia, but he is not a person that you would like to meet. And so, they got very curious. Who is this, person that somebody, another Indian, comes before him and leaves the word that you should not meet Partha Chatterjee when he comes to Australia. Well, that's how I was invited to their house. So, sometimes a negative impression that you carry for somebody might actually become very positive for him. So after they met me, they realized that they would miss my company and they would make a miss if they had not invited me to their house. Well, I'm nothing special, nothing at all. But then only thing that I'm a person who's I'm just try to be very modest, try to be very humble, and try to be as down to earth as possible, because I know very little. Because in our entire life, in our entire pursuit, in any field, you can only learn very, very little in spite of all the great efforts you make. Anyway, so that is one thing. Anyway, so these are the great personalities that I have met. And another thing I must make a mention, at Brisbane Royal, not only did I judge the show, at the end of the show I was given the honour to name another judge that I would want them to invite back to Australia and to judge the Brisbane Royal. And so I suggested to them my friend, my great friend, Dr. Jose Mendiola from the Philippines. Well, people who know Jose Mendiola, everybody would say that he is extremely special. And special to me, and of course, he is special to so many people across the globe, because he is one of the finest judges and a fantastic gentleman that one would love to meet. And he's left me with so much of advice as to not only dogs for, how in life, that I would never forget him. Anyway, I suggested Jose's name, but he is actually so, he realized that 10 days of judging was really hard job. So later when he came closer to him, he backed out from the show. But then he suggested a friend's name, another dear friend of mine who did a wonderful job, of course, is a great judge, Mario Maxese from Philippines again. So that is the story of Brisbane Royal, which you've been watching for so long, and I'm sure you will enjoy. You will see, of course, a lot of people who are just casual visitors and who tune up to see would sign off, because they wouldn't be so interested to see such continuous dog videos for such long hours. People nowadays, now not only they don't like to watch long videos, they in fact today watch in social media that you have in Facebook, you have a reel, you're 26 seconds or something like that. So people are used to watching only small videos. So anyway, this is, of course, I can't help it. This is the entire Brisbane Royal, that my part of it, of course, which was an official video, and somehow I was able to retrieve it. It was in DVDs, and nowadays it's very difficult. I never had the system. Anyway, I requested somebody to copy it for me into my hard disk, and of course now it's being made public. So please have a look, enjoy the show, enjoy the dogs, and we'll come back with a lot of new things very soon. Thank you very much, and we'll be back again in my next episode. But then please don't forget to click on the subscription button, and also like and share it, and then bell button is very important, because then the next video you will be intimated directly. So please subscribe to my channel, as I already have. As I'm flattered with the great response I've already had, and I would love to join myself with dog lovers across the country and around the globe. Bye-bye, and see you soon again in my next session.
Could we have to assembly area 2, please, all folly smooth. To assembly area 2, all folly smooth. Thank you. 831.
Challenge.
07 will also be the policy secretary. The English French Spaniel Channel Fence has been awarded to a citizen for 883.
It's the puppy. The best of breed.
show your best exhibit of the breed, runner-up, best exhibit of the breed, the opposite sex of the breed, the best puppy of the breed, and the opposite sex puppy of the breed. Those people number of the best exhibit is 85, 7 for the runner-up, 3. open Vegemars. First exhibit number 1692, second exhibit number 1686, third exhibit number 1685, fourth exhibit number 1684. First exhibit number 1473, second exhibit number 1474, third exhibit number 1472. The Chatterjee Australia Vegemars, first exhibit number 1475. And reserve challenge has been awarded to 1678. Exhibit number 1658. Will you please put your hands together for the Gold Retriever Challenge Fish, Reserve Challenge Fish, and Best Puppy Fish. Thank you. In the Chatterjee Australian Red Vegemars, first exhibit number 1476. Could we have to Assembly Area 2, please, all the Jack Russell Terriers? Thank you. Assembly Area 2, all opposite sex of breed is 1692. Now judging for the puppy of the breed, the Golden River. And the next breed is the Burlington Retriever. Next, the Field Spaniel. Followed by the Guadalajara. German short-haired pointer. One runner long-haired. The Labrador. The Irish setter. The English setter. Golden Retriever. the Nova Scotia Duck Colony Retriever, the Brittany, Partha Samuel, Chatterjee, and last but not least, the Cocker Spaniel. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for all the best particular breeds in Group 3. For those people that are not familiar with our judging process, these dogs have all been selected from the breeds in Group 3. These are the best exhibit of the breed from that particular breed in Group 3.